What is going on, guys? We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. We're going to be doing a live mock draft during this live stream. And some of you, the listeners, the viewers, can join the live stream today. We're going to be doing it. I think we have a total of, looks like 5 or 6 WalterPicks TikTok content creators already in the mock draft. If you are on YouTube, here's the link. You can join the link and you can mock draft with me right now on Sleeper. We're going to be doing a 14-person PPR mock draft. I do have the 13th pick in an actual 14-person draft that's coming up. So we are going to do a mock draft. I'm definitely going to completely obliterate this draft. I'm going to dominate everyone that is in it. And you can join it right now if you come to the YouTube stream and get the link. Who should I take with my 6th pick? I think 6th pick is one of the hardest picks in fantasy football. I honestly think picks 3 through 6 are some of the more challenging picks in fantasy football this season. I think you're looking at guys like Ezekiel Elliott, guys like potentially Saquon Barkley. If you're worried about Saquon Barkley and the first 5 picks off the board are not what you're hoping, then you should probably consider Travis Kelce at 6th overall. Guys, we are doing a live draft with you, the viewers, right now. It's completely free. We're just going to do a mock draft on the YouTube live stream. I am sending the link on YouTube. So you got to go to our YouTube channel to get the link. Search WalterPicks on YouTube. I will send the link. You can click in, and then you can just choose any pick that you want that is left. There's going to be 14 people that are going to do this draft with us. We currently have, how many spots are open? We have, out of 14, I'm seeing 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So we have 14 spots. 5 are already taken. We got 9 remaining. 9 spots remaining in this. I have the, if any of you want this work, join the mock. That's what Falcons.WalterPicks is saying to you. So if you come to the YouTube stream, you will get the link. If you are on the YouTube stream, please let me know if the link is working and if you were able to get in. I think we're already seeing some people get in. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Friday. Guys, I'm pumped. It is Friday, and we're heading into the weekend. I have my first legit draft, high-stakes league draft, tomorrow, and I need to get ready. So we're going to do a mock draft with some of our WalterPicks creators. We're going to do a mock draft with some of you, and you can come join. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. There's still 6 spots left. They're filling up very fast now. There's only 6 spots remaining. Now there's only 3 spots remaining, it's looking like. I'm seeing 3 spots. When should Kelce go in a 12-man PPR league? Ryan, this is a good question. First of all, thanks for tuning in, Ryan. Second of all, I've seen Travis Kelce go as early as 5th overall. But I've also seen Travis Kelce go as late as, 10th overall. And on Yahoo, specifically on Yahoo, we're seeing Travis Kelce really slide back in drafts. On Yahoo, Travis Kelce's sometimes available at the 12th overall pick. All right, let's take a look if this draft is filled. There's one more spot. There's only one more spot. Who wants the 12th pick? Who wants to draft right before me? I like how all the picks got taken, except for the one right before me. Owen gets that last spot. All right, guys, we're going to start this draft. There's only going to be 30 seconds per pick. I'm expecting this to be a very sharp draft. Again, you can watch this live mock draft. There's half WalterPicks TikTok content creators. There's half of the viewers in this mock draft. And you can come watch it live on YouTube. I'm literally sharing my screen. You can see the picks as they happen. Just come to the YouTube stream, look up WalterPicks, and we're going to go through a very real but mock draft. I don't usually like doing mock drafts. I like doing real drafts. So we're going to try to make this one as real as possible so we can all gain something from this. And I will be answering the comments throughout this live stream. All right, the draft is starting. And, of course, with the first overall pick, we see Christian McCaffrey go off the board. And already, Browns.WalterPicks. If there was one person I expected to deviate from the norm, it was Browns.WalterPicks, who goes Alvin Kamara over Dalvin Cook. A definite mistake, but Alvin Kamara is one of those 3 guys that can win fantasy leagues this year. He has the receiving upside and the rushing upside. You need both to have actual top running back overall upside. And that's also what Saquon Barkley has, which is exactly why we're seeing him go 4th overall. And this is really interesting to me because I feel like in the underdog best ball drafts I've been doing, Saquon Barkley's really sliding a lot. But I have a good feeling that in my traditional, more season-long, high-stakes leagues, Saquon's going to be going much earlier in these drafts, and that's what we just saw in this draft. One of the viewers, just took Saquon 4th overall. This is a 14-person PPR league, by the way. I am in a 14-person league, but I also like practicing with 14 people because it makes things more difficult, and I'd rather my mock draft be more difficult than too easy. Anytime a mock draft is too easy, it's like you're just wasting your time. It's the same thing like studying for a test. If you're studying stuff that's way easier than what's on the test, then what were you studying? It was a waste of time. So we see Devontae Adams, the first receiver off the board, 6th overall, and then Ezekiel Elliott at 7. If I'm looking at these first 7 picks, I think, first of all, I think Dalvin Cook at 3rd overall, that Michael Buetti, our Ravens.WalterPicks creator, I think he is off to the best start because he got the should-be 2nd overall pick, 3rd overall. I also do like where Ezekiel Elliott went, 7th overall. I could easily see Zeke outscoring Derrick Henry. I could easily see him outscoring Saquon. I could see him, I don't expect it, but I could see him outscoring Alvin Kamara too. Zeke to me is another one of those guys that has the receiving and passing upside. All right, I'm on the clock now, so I got to focus. Let's see if I can even pull up this and who's left. I'm definitely not taking Nick Chubb. Oh, man. Oh, no. This is why we have to practice. I'm going to go... I want to go with Antonio Gibson, but I'm not gonna. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs. This is what's going to happen in the real draft, too. I just know this. So many running backs are going to fly off the board. Honestly, I'm hoping in my actual draft that Austin Eckler is there at 13 overall, but that is not what happened in this draft, and I'm going to be drafting with some sharp people, so I don't expect it to happen in my actual draft either. Of course, Falcons.WalterPicks is going to take Calvin Ridley. I understand that as well. I am really hoping there's one player for me here that I'm glad I didn't take him with my first pick. So I almost feel like I'm guaranteed to take this guy in this pick. I'm going to take Antonio Gibson over Najee Harris and over Joe Mixon. Antonio Gibson to me is one of these guys that he at least has the path to being like those guys going in the top 5. And that's exactly what I want. And especially, wait and see. If you're watching live on YouTube, again, we're doing a live draft on YouTube right now with some of the viewers and with some of the WalterPicks TikTok content creators. So just come to the YouTube stream. You can literally see the draft as it's happening. I had the 13th overall pick. I went with Stephon Diggs and Antonio Gibson. And I guarantee you, I'm going to be saying later in this draft, I wish I had a running back instead of Stephon Diggs. Because in these 14-people leagues especially, the running backs, but even by the 3rd and 4th and 5th round, are just such a massive drop-off than what you are getting in the first 2 rounds. I've been saying it on all the live streams. I want to go early running back. I want running backs early. But then when it comes down to it, and I have to choose between Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, and Nick Chubb, I'm almost definitely going to choose Stephon Diggs and Calvin Ridley over Nick Chubb. And I know somewhere Browns.WalterPicks is shaking his head because I know you do not like that Nick Chubb take. I'm excited to go live with you, by the way, because I do want to hear your Browns takes heading into the season. All right, I'm going to get to some of the comments while we are watching this draft go on. Carson won't even be there in the 3rd. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, maybe Chris Carson will be there for me in the 3rd round. Like, there's a very good chance he won't be. Can I join the next draft? Yeah. No. We definitely will have a next draft. We're going to be doing a bunch of these mock drafts as we get closer and closer to our actual drafts. I'm going to want to get the good practice in. I've been doing so many best ball drafts. If you guys have been following me this offseason, I know a lot of you have. I have done close to 300 best ball drafts on Underdog Fantasy, and it's time for me to transition. I got to transition into the season-long mode, and it's happening right now with this mock draft and more mock drafts to come. I would prefer, I think there's better gain on my time to be doing competitive mock drafts than best ball drafts, because best ball is different than season long, and I got to be ready for, I'm in 6 different high stakes fantasy leagues. I'm going to have thousands of dollars on the line this fantasy season, and I got to do better than last year. I had one of my worst fantasy seasons that I've ever had last year because I took Clyde Edwards-Helaire 5th overall in 4 out of my 6 high stakes leagues. And I'm not out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire this season, by the way. I still think he's actually a pretty good pick, where he's actually hasn't been picked yet in this draft, I don't think. Yeah, he was. He was picked middle of the 2nd round. The teams that are forming right now, I wanted to take a quick look at this draft board. If you're watching live on YouTube, by the way, smash the like button, and also make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're watching live on YouTube, because we're going to be doing lives all season long on YouTube. And the reason that the lives on YouTube are just slightly superior to the lives on TikTok, well, there's really two reasons. One, the chat is slightly less spammy, and the second thing is I can actually share my screen, so you can literally see the draft as it's happening, which is also a big value add. All right. What are you doing with Michael Thomas this year? Yeah, honestly, I'm not drafting him. He was on my do not draft list. I was really disappointed because I was very excited about Michael Thomas this season, like extremely excited about him. I was really hoping we were going to see one of those huge bounce back seasons, but it's just already shaping up way too similarly to last year. And when it comes to drafting, I do not want to draft guys that are already injured. Injuries are going to find my team. I don't need to go find the injuries. Would you rather have Lamar and Higgins or Rodgers and Ayuk? Definitely Lamar and Higgins for me. I think Lamar is a pretty big step above Aaron Rodgers in fantasy because of the rushing upside. And I won't be surprised at all if T. Higgins outscores Brandon Ayuka the Bazooka. I absolutely love T. Higgins this season, guys. I think T. Higgins is going to lead the Bengals in receiving. I think he's going to be the most consistent Bengals receiver, but all of the three Bengals receivers offer upside, which is why I like Tyler Boyd the most at cost, because he's actually very, very cheap. We see CeeDee Lamb go in the middle of the third round. This is another thing. On Yahoo, all the mock drafts that I've done on Yahoo, I'm seeing CeeDee Lamb go like end of the third, beginning of the fourth round. I do not think that's going to happen in any real league. CeeDee Lamb's got to go early or middle of the third round. I'm pretty surprised when he goes late third, beginning of the fourth round. So I'm glad to see that's what's happening here. I want to check back in on this draft board and just see how some of these teams are shaping together. I think you can't see the first overall pick. I can only show 13 teams at once. I think that whoever had the first overall pick, I think you blew the chance with Christian McCaffrey, because I do not like Josh Jacobs in the back end of the second round. I would prefer, honestly, Chris Carson over Josh Jacobs this season. But I think the thing to do when you have the first overall pick, you just got Christian McCaffrey. You're hoping he stays healthy the whole season. Lock in 2 wide receivers with those next 2 picks. All right, I'm back on the clock, and this is what I'm talking about, guys. Look at these running backs available for me. Like, I told you I was going to say it, but I wish I had a running back instead of Stephon Diggs, because the running backs available are just absolutely atrocious. And it looks like Amari Cooper also flew off the board, which I was hoping he would slide. And I'm in a very tough spot here. I think that I'm going to end up going with DJ Moore. I don't know if I missed the timer there. I didn't. I'm going to end up with such bad running backs on this squad. I think I'm hoping in my actual draft that Amari Cooper slides to this spot, or Robert Woods, or Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson's average draft position on Yahoo is in the middle of the 4th round. So I'm really hoping that ends up happening in the draft that I'm doing on Yahoo. Mike Davis gets taken in the last pick of the 3rd round. This is a very on-brand draft for Falcons.WalterPicks right now. But I do think that I was not considering Mike Davis with my 3rd pick. This is what I'm talking about too. Like, this is exactly why you want to lock in 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds, because you don't want Mike Davis as your 3rd round pick in fantasy football. And I can't get myself to spend a 4th round pick on any of these running backs. I will take TJ Hawkinson with this pick. I think this is going to end up being what I do in my actual draft, because when you're drafting at the 13th overall pick, like, there's just absolutely no chance that TJ Hawkinson makes it back to me with my next pick, and it's definitely a reach for me to take him in the beginning of the 4th. I'm putting a little bit of belief in TJ Hawkinson with this pick, but I want one of TJ Hawkinson, Darren Waller, or Kelsey, and if I don't get those guys, I'm probably going to wait till like the last 2 rounds. So I do think TJ Hawkinson is a guy that I'm going to be targeting in my season-long leagues. You got to remember, guys, consistency at the tight end position does not exist. It is so hard to be consistent. I honestly won't be surprised if Kyle Pitts is not as consistent as we're hoping he will be. It's the hardest position to play as a rookie. But as we get later into the middle rounds, people start drafting tight ends that are the next best tight end, but they are just such a tier below all the tight ends that have already been taken. Guys like Noah Fant, guys like even Dallas Goedert, Mike Gesicki, Rob Gronkowski, Robert Tonyan, Logan Thomas. I like Logan Thomas a little bit. I like Tyler Higbee. I think Irv Smith has a ceiling, but all of these guys are going to have absolutely inconsistent seasons. Like, they're just going to be so inconsistent. Again, if you're tuning in on TikTok, we are doing a live mock draft on YouTube right now. It's the half WalterPicks content creators, it's half of the viewers, and it's actually been a very sharp draft so far. I actually feel more nervous about my actual draft coming up because this is harder than I expected at the 13th overall pick. I was hoping that Amari Cooper or Robert Woods would be there in the 3rd round. I had to end up settling for DJ Moore. I was also very much hoping that Darrell Henderson would be there in my 3rd or 4th round pick. He got picked in the middle of the 3rd round as well. Chris Carson went early 3rd round. All the guys that I really needed to slide by not taking 2 running backs to start did not slide. And this is what happens when you don't take 2 running backs in the start of your draft. I really think my team, when we look back at it, would have been so much better with 2 receivers. All right, I want to analyze some of the other teams that we're seeing get put together here. Starting, I think we'll start from the back because that's where people have taken 4 picks. Calvin Ridley, Nick Chubb, Mike Davis, Kyle Pitts. I think we can tell who the Falcons fan in the room is. If we look at the team right to the left at me, I mean, this is a very, very high upside team. They're taking a strong, pretty much zero running back approach. Like, to me, this is a modified zero running back approach. You went Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf with your first 2 picks. I honestly would prefer DeAndre Hopkins over DK Metcalf. I think this team would be better with DeAndre Hopkins. But regardless, Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf on the same fantasy team, like those 2 guys are going to absolutely destroy in some weeks. And then Travis Etienne was the 3rd round pick, who to me, I'm starting to get more and more nervous about Etienne because the coaching staff, Urban Myers, they're talking up Carlos Hyde. And in the more that I hear the name Carlos Hyde, the less and less sleep I'm getting at night, because I do not want to see the Jaguars give Carlos Hyde the ball a single time this entire season, but it's going to happen. I won't be surprised if Carlos Hyde has more carries than Travis Etienne this season, but you're drafting Etienne for the receiving upside, and he does have league-winning upside. And then you went with Cooper Kupp in the 4th round, so 3 good wide receivers, 1 good running back. Should I go for Antonio Gibson 2nd round in a 12-man league? I just drafted Antonio Gibson in the 2nd round of a 14-team league, so I took him with, I think it was the 16th pick. So yeah, I would do it. I would do it. I took him over a lot of very good players. You have to get at least 1 running back in the first 2 rounds, or I think you are just going to be at such a significant disadvantage at the running back position, unless it's one of those years that there's just so many injuries, in which case 0 running back is going to absolutely smash. But I wouldn't bet on that in your traditional season-long league. I do like Antonio Gibson. To me, Antonio Gibson at least has a path. There's a story you can tell about Antonio Gibson to a path to being a top 5 running back in fantasy football, and that's exactly what I want when I'm drafting running backs in fantasy. I need them to actually have a path to being the best running back in fantasy football. I don't think Derrick Henry has that path. I don't think Nick Chubb has that path. I don't think Jonathan Taylor has that path. All 3 of those guys, by the way, are very good. I'm not saying those aren't good players. There are 3 of the most efficient running backs in the NFL, but they have very limited receiving roles in their offenses, and you need a big receiving role in PPR leagues to have a path to being the number 1 overall running back. It's why I like Alvin Kamara over Derrick Henry. It's why I like Saquon Barkley and Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones and Zeke arguably more than Derrick Henry this season in PPR leagues. All right, continuing on with some analysis of some of the teams that have already been drafted. Again, we're doing a live draft on YouTube right now. You can come, literally you can see the draft if you come search WalterPicks on YouTube. Thanks, by the way, everyone that's tuned in right now. This has already been a lot of fun. Make sure you're hitting the like button and the subscribe button as well if you are watching live on YouTube. But I want to continue on. The next team who had the 11th pick, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris. I think that's a very strong start. I like that start definitely better than how my team started because you went with 2 running backs, and you're still getting good receivers. It's not like you're not getting good receivers when you start running back. The depth at wide receiver, and definitely some of the sleepers at wide receiver late in draft are the primary reason that it makes even more sense to go early running back. So I like how that team's coming together. I like the Austin Eckler and then 3 straight wide receivers strategy a lot too. I think I would probably prefer Joe Mixon over Keenan Allen. This is Joe Mixon's year, guys. This is the 4th straight year we're saying it. This is Joe Mixon's year. It's got to be Joe Mixon's year. And people are going to look back at the end of the season and be like, why did we hate Joe Mixon so much again? Oh, we were blaming him for injuries that he really can't control and that we cannot predict very well. Every running back has a high chance of injury. This is a fact. Joe Mixon probably has a slightly higher chance, but it's negligible. They all have such a high chance that it's really not something that I think you should weight so heavily in your draft analysis. So I do think that I would have preferred Joe Mixon over Keenan Allen, especially just looking at the running backs that are left now. And I'm going to be so screwed at the running back position as this draft continues on, and I'm coming up, so I gotta pay attention here at what I'm looking at And I don't need to worry about I won't draft a tight end for the rest of the draft now. Let's see. Wow, this is bad. The running backs that are left here are very scary. I have a good idea of what I'm going to end up doing as long as Falcons.WalterPicks doesn't completely ruin my plan. Let's look at the quarterbacks available. Justin Herbert's still there. He seems like a guy that is the end of a tier to me. But I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy with this pick, and I have a very good feeling that in my actual draft, I'm going to end up taking Jerry Jeudy here as well. I absolutely love Jerry Jeudy, guys. I am in on Jerry Jeudy in a very, very big way. Jerry Jeudy he just checks so many boxes. He's heading into his second year. He underperformed as a rookie, but he still had a good rookie season. He only scored 3 touchdowns, though. He's going to score more than 3 touchdowns this season. And then you add in the fact that he was top 10 in the league in deep targets per game and in air yards per game. And there's a clear story there with Jerry Jeudy, as long as the quarterback situation on the Broncos isn't absolutely terrible, which it definitely is at least better this season. At least there's 2 quarterbacks that they can potentially get Jerry Jeudy the ball. And you had to steal Trey Sermon from me. See, I hope that you would have taken Jerry Jeudy because I was 1,000% going to take Trey Sermon with this next pick. And to me, there's not that big of a difference, honestly, between Trey Sermon and Travis Etienne. Trey Sermon, though, is going 3 or 4 rounds later. And now I'm just going to have to completely punt my running back 2 situation. I want Devonta Smith, but I think in my actual draft I might end up going Juju Smith-Schuster over Devonta Smith, but I like Devonta Smith a lot. I think he's going to have just such a high weekly ceiling. I don't know if anyone watched the preseason Patriots game. I really do not put much stock into the preseason, so I have not talked that much about it. I do watch every preseason game because I'm just so excited to see football on my screen, but it's very important to me that I don't overreact about the preseason. But the number one thing I want to see in the preseason is the players that I'm drafting out there and looking fully healthy. And that's exactly what we saw from Devonta Smith last night. He went out there and ran 24 routes. There's a lot of players that start in the NFL that don't even run 24 routes in the regular season in a game. So Devonta Smith is 100% healthy. He was looking very explosive. I am all in on the Devonta Smith hype train as well. I probably should have taken Damien Harris given where my team was at, but I was very flustered because Trey Sermon got completely sniped from me, and I really was not expecting Trey Sermon to get picked. You already had 2 running backs, and you went with 2 more running backs. I think Falcons.WalterPicks is just messing with me, but I now have 4 wide receivers, so I won't draft very many more wide receivers in this draft. There's only 4 rounds left. I cut this off to a 10-round draft. We don't need to draft defenses and kickers and stuff. Not Zeke at 4, someone says. Browns.WalterPicks says in the chat. I will try to get back to some of the comments. I know I haven't done too much analysis of the teams at the beginning of this draft, but I do want to get to some of the comments. When is the 32-team draft? The 32-person Walter Picks draft is happening on, I believe it's August 29th. I think it's the night of August 29th. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, we're doing a live draft right now on YouTube where you can literally go and you can see the picks as they're happening. And I'm a part of this draft. I am also joined by a bunch of the other Walter Picks content creators in this draft, and some of the viewers are in this draft. And honestly, it has been a great practice run for me. This has been eye-opening. I honestly feel I have not felt less prepared for a draft all offseason than I currently feel right now. I was absolutely sniped with Trey Sermon. I really wanted one of Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce to slide to me at 13 overall. And I think if I were to go back and rerun this 13th overall pick, I think I would prefer to have Najee Harris and Antonio Gibson rather than Stephon Diggs and Antonio Gibson. And then with the 3 wide receivers I have, I think that team would have a great floor, great ceiling. But as the draft goes on, I've been saying this a lot in my live streams, but as drafts go on, I'm really going to be focused on upside. I really don't care anymore about downside for players. We're in round 7 now. This is where fantasy football leagues are won. I'm telling you, whatever happened in these first 6 rounds, people will lose their fantasy season because of these first 6 rounds, but people are going to win their fantasy season because of these next 4 rounds. There's going to be at least a few players in these next 4 rounds that just so by far outproduce what we were expecting for them going into the season that they just completely win leagues. And so I'm solely focused on upside from here on out in the rest of the draft. Sam loves my quarterback. Yeah, Browns.WalterPicks. Let's look at your team for a second. it does seem like an on-brand team for you as well, which I love to see on-brand things going on. But so Browns.WalterPicks had the second overall pick, and they went contrary to what most people believe should be Dalvin Cook. He went with Alvin Kamara. Which I disagree with, but it's still not the end of the world. Both guys could easily finish as the number 1 overall running back in fantasy. So he went Alvin Kamara first. I disagree with it, but you're still going to be fine. Darren Waller in the second round, I like this. I would be willing to go Darren Waller in the back end of the second round in a 12-person draft. So the back end of the second round in a 14-person draft to me is even better. Honestly, Darren Waller, the Darren Waller pick just looks so much better next to the Josh Jacobs pick. Like, I would so much rather have Darren Waller on my team than Josh Jacobs. And then with the next 2 picks, you get Justin Jefferson and Odell Beckham Jr. Justin Jefferson is a fantastic pick. He's going to finish as a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football, and he has that insane weekly upside. I'm not sleeping at all on Justin Jefferson this season. I've been seeing him usually actually drafted in the second round, so I think that was actually a pretty good value pick as well. Odell Beckham is a guy that I have been excited about all offseason long. He's looking fully healthy, and I'm excited to talk to you about Odell Beckham on the live stream, but I do think that the Odell Beckham pick is very on brand for you. I like the Javonte Williams pick as well. I think Javonte Williams and Trey Sermon, these are the 2 best valued rookie running backs, because I won't be surprised if either of them ends up just commanding 15-plus carries a game and has some sort of receiving role that isn't currently anticipated, and they're going in the 4th and 5th rounds. Like, I was really hoping to get one of them, and I already told you Trey Sermon got absolutely sniped right before my pick. What do you think about Joe Mixon? I just joined the live. I think this is Joe Mixon's year. I've said this for 4 consecutive years, though. So we got to take everything with Joe Mixon with a grain of salt, but I don't factor injury analysis very much into my drafting because I don't pretend like I know who's going to get injured, and you do not know who is going to get injured. And there's just not that many running backs in the NFL that have this 3-down skill set that Joe Mixon has. All right, I need to find a running back to take. And every time I look at the running back list, I am just feeling this overwhelming sense of I can't spend an actual pick on any of these guys. I have to take one. I guess I'll go Leonard Fournette. I mean, I have zero faith in Leonard Fournette. I would not take Leonard Fournette in an actual league. I'm just so screwed at the running back position at this point that I need to be drafting running backs and just hope something goes my way if this were an actual league. The lesson I think I've learned here, and I do, by the way, I do actually have the 13th overall pick in an actual 14-person high-stakes league where I have a lot of money on the line. I feel like I almost have to go 2 running backs in that draft because it's just a nightmare. I mean, look at this. There's none of these guys. I don't want Kenyon Drake or James Conner or David Johnson or Devin Singletary. Like, I guess I'll take Kenyon Drake because at least he has some PPR upside. But I mean, Leonard Fournette and Kenyon Drake, both of them are going to have a floor of below 5 points every single week in fantasy. Like, these guys are not guys that I want in my starting lineup. So this is what I was saying at the very beginning when I drafted Stephon Diggs in the first round. You just got to go early running back here. All right, YouTube audio is quiet. I can barely hear it. Ooh, that's not good. Let me see if I can up that a little bit. I appreciate the comments like that because that is stuff that I just would not know because I cannot hear myself. So hopefully that's a little bit louder now. And I will try to get to some of the comments before we wrap up this live stream. But guys, we're doing a live mock draft right now on YouTube. You can literally see the picks as they're happening. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. You can also just go straight to our TikTok profile. The YouTube link is right there. And you can see the draft that's happened so far. This is a live draft with half WalterPicks TikTok content creators and half of you, the viewers. So it's been a very sharp draft. Honestly, I got completely crushed, to be totally honest. I was very caught off guard several different times. I hope I don't have this feeling in an actual draft. Certainly in my real drafts, I'll have at least a 2-minute timer, which will, I think, help a little bit. But looking back at the 13th overall pick, I do think I would go with running back in round 1. I still like the TJ Hawkinson, Jerry Jeudy pick and where I got them. But there's so much value at wide receiver late in these drafts that I think you just got to hammer running backs early. How do you rank Montgomery, Swift, Dobbins, Carson, Henderson in half PPR? Let's see where those guys went in this draft that we're doing live on YouTube right now. I think that's a good way to look at these different guys, and I'll talk about my rankings as we look at them. So Montgomery, Swift, Dobbins, Carson, Henderson. I think the first guy off the board was Dobbins, sorry. Yeah, Dobbins went off the board. You just listed a lot of running backs. This is not easy. Dobbins, then Swift went back-to-back in the back end of the second round. Then Chris Carson went. Then David Montgomery, like 5 picks later, than Darrell Henderson soon after. So I think that's relatively what I would agree with. I prefer DeAndre Swift over J.K. Dobbins, though, in PPR leagues. In a half PPR league, it's probably much closer. I think I would still lean DeAndre Swift, though. I think DeAndre Swift, guys, DeAndre Swift has a path to 60 catches this season. And if he does that, he's going to be better than J.K. Dobbins in both half PPR and PPR leagues. The big concern for me about DeAndre Swift is that the Lions are going to be getting destroyed by so much so early in games that the Lions are just going to be incentivized to, let's just take DeAndre Swift out for this game. This will be a Jamal Williams game because we don't want to sacrifice one of our good young players in a game where we're already down by 30 points in the first half. Because that's how bad the Lions defense is going to be, guys. The Lions are going to get absolutely demolished on the defensive side of the ball. So, and their receivers are just a zero. So I do think there's a path to targets as long as DeAndre Swift is on the field enough. All right. Who should I take at 12th overall? I had the 13th overall pick in the draft we just did, and the guys I was hoping for were, I was really hoping that Austin Eckler would slide, or Aaron Jones, or even Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, I guess that was wishful thinking because he went 4th overall. Aaron Jones went 8th overall, and Austin Eckler went 9th overall. So all of that thought process there honestly might have been wishful thinking. I was also hoping that Travis Kelce would slide. He ended up going 10th overall, which I think, by the way, I didn't talk about your team, Caleb, our Packers.WalterPicks creators in this mock draft as well that we're doing live on YouTube right now. And I like the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes start. And this is actually something that if both those guys were available, like if Kelce was available at the 13th overall pick, I would have considered Patrick Mahomes there too. But the fact that you also got Darrell Henderson, I think, makes this team just so much better. I like the Damian Harris pick as well, honestly. I think, honestly, that pick at 10th overall makes me a little bit more willing to try out not going running back early. Because if I could get Darrell Henderson in the 3rd or 4th round at my pick, and I could get Damian Harris in the 5th or 6th round, then you can build an actual team with an extremely high ceiling at every position except for running back, but then at least a good floor at running back. Guys, you got to understand, Cam Akers was getting drafted in the 1st round, like middle to end of the 1st round before he was injured. And I know not many people were drafting. I was drafting actually pretty frequently at the time. Cam Akers was going middle of the 1st round in almost every single draft. And now Darrell Henderson, let's say Darrell Henderson is, 75% of what Cam Akers might have been? Cam Akers is really good. But Darrell Henderson, let's say he's 75% of what Cam Akers was. Well, he's going in the 4th round. So even if he's 75%, like middle of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th round, usually this is a 14-team league. I think in 12-team leagues, he's going beginning of the 4th round. I love that value. I do. I think there's a really high ceiling, but also just a very, very good floor for Darrell Henderson this season, especially in PPR leagues. He was a good receiver in college. He averaged almost 9 yards a carry in college. He really has not put anything exciting, like really on film in the NFL, which is concerning. But there's also just zero competition. It's the same reason you got to like Joe Mixon, guys. You got to be willing to take a stab on Joe Mixon. Do not draft with your frustrations from previous seasons. Every year is different. And Joe Mixon, by all accounts, is fully healthy at the current moment. And every single time he comes up in front of the coaching staff, they say that Joe Mixon is going to be on the field all 3 downs. They do not want him to leave the field at any time this season, which might make you even more concerned about the injuries. But to me, that's exactly what I want to hear about all the running backs that I'm drafting, because that means volume. And volume wins in fantasy football, especially at the running back position. All right, I'm about to be back on the clock. I'm probably just going to take another terrible running back so that I can cement this into my mind that I need to draft for early running backs. It's interesting that Devin Singletary is still there. I was thinking about taking him with my last pick. Devin Singletary, I don't know why everyone, of course, I had to mention Devin Singletary right before my pick. This has just been the perfect draft, guys, for me. This is honestly, I think, one of my worst draft performances. And all I want to do is draft wide receivers, but I drafted so many early that I can't draft wide receivers. I also don't think I've taken a quarterback. Joe Burrow, and I don't know why anyone would draft early quarterbacks this season. I'm going to end up with 2 good quarterbacks at least. Or I could I could just ride with Joe Burrow. Guys, Joe Burrow was averaging almost 50 passing attempts a game in his first 8 games in the NFL. It might have been 10 games in the NFL. He might be top 10 in pass attempts this season with arguably the 3 receivers he has, I think are a top 5 wide receiver trio in the league. Like, I think the Cowboys are in the discussion as number 1. I think that the Buccaneers are in the discussion as number 1. I think I'm missing one other big team with just insane wide receivers. But I do think that you got to have the Bengals in the conversation, and Justin Fields gets taken. I'll gladly take Trevor Lawrence as well. Like late in drafts, guys, you're getting both these quarterbacks I just got for free. Easily, both these guys could finish top 12 at the quarterback position this season. I do want Trey Lance a lot. Trey Lance went, honestly, a lot earlier than I was expecting in this draft, but this is just, I think, just a group of very sharp people. So I got to be prepared, because in my drafts, I'm also drafting with some very sharp drafters. I don't think it's going to be easy to get Trey Lance in fantasy this year, and that might be partly my fault, because I've been hyping up Trey Lance for quite some time. But if there is one guy that turns into the Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson from 2 years ago, or Josh Allen from last season, it's going to be Trey Lance. And if it's not Trey Lance, it's probably going to be Justin Fields. And looking at how this draft went, I mean, I would rather get Justin Fields in the 10th round than Trey Lance in the 6th. So if I do miss on Trey Lance, I'll be gladly taking a stab at Justin Fields late in the draft too. I probably would take him over Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence is also the guy that's going to be starting right away. And by all accounts, about what the Jaguars are saying, they want to play very, very fast on offense, which I think is going to be great news for Trevor Lawrence if they can actually pull that off. All right, I will try to get to some of the comments. We got a few minutes left in this stream. What is going on, Iguchi? Big Ball's team is scary. Where is, let's see where that team is. Let me pull this back up. Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, George Kittle, Josh Allen. All right, so this is a very much a zero running back strategy. I think the only person in this draft to go zero running back was the 6th overall pick. You got Devontae Adams at 6 overall. I don't know how DeAndre Hopkins slid all the way back to you in the 2nd round. I thought DeAndre Hopkins should have been picked over DK Metcalf and Keenan Allen. Honestly, I would probably take DeAndre Hopkins over Patrick Mahomes too, but I did like the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stack. So you got Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins in a 14-person league, and then you got George Kittle in the 3rd round. George Kittle, like I like Darren Waller more than George Kittle, but he definitely has a chance to finish as a top 2 tight end in fantasy, and he's clearly in that top tier. And then you followed it up in the 4th round with Josh Allen. You have 4 players. Your first 4 picks all could finish number 1 overall in their position, and nobody would blink an eye. But the running backs are definitely scary. You got Chase Edmonds. I like Chase Edmonds as a zero running back target. Honestly, I wish I had Chase Edmonds on the team that I built here. I don't love Raheem Mostert, but he probably will have a role. And I do think people are more down on Raheem Mostert than they probably should be. I'm not expecting him to be super consistent this season, but if Jimmy Garoppolo does stay as the starter, like, Raheem Mostert's going to see 10-plus carries a game. Raheem Mostert, did he go after... Yeah, he went after Damian Harris. I mean, what is the big difference between Raheem Mostert and Damian Harris? Like, yeah, it seems like Raheem Mostert has more competition with Trey Sermon, but Damian Harris and Raheem Mostert, I think, will have very similar roles in both their teams, and both have very good offensive lines. So yeah, I like how that team was built a lot. And then you got Claypool and Gallup and Jamal Williams. Honestly, I like that team a lot. I don't know if I have a favorite team. What do you guys think about how this draft went? How do you think about my picks? I am the Crispy Kareem. All right, that's a funny name, by the way. All right, you went with Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins. I liked the Derrick Henry pick at 5th. Derrick Henry's on my do not draft list, by the way, but that really was just to say I don't want Derrick Henry 3rd overall or 4th overall, but because this was a very sharp draft, I think you almost have to take Derrick Henry 5th overall. You could consider Ezekiel Elliott as well. I think if I do get the 5th pick in drafts, or I do have the 6th pick in one of my drafts, like, if Derrick Henry's sitting there, it's going to be hard to pass on him. But in the 2nd round, I think I would have preferred DeAndre Swift over J.K. Dobbins. You went with Allen Robinson in the 3rd round. I think that was a really good value. I've seen him go in the late 2nd round in lots of drafts. Tyler Lockett I like a lot as well. Don't be surprised, guys, if Tyler Lockett, through the first half of the season, is leading the Seahawks in receiving again, because he did it last season in the first half of the season. We've seen it for long periods, long stretches. He's definitely the boom, like a boom and bust type of guy, but the boom is going to come with Tyler Lockett at various points throughout the season. So I like that pick a lot. And then you stacked him with Russell Wilson. I love stacking. I'm a big fan of it, even in season-long leagues. We saw it with Kelsey and Mahomes from Caleb Hendricks, the Packers.WalterPicks creator, and we saw it with Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson from you as well. Crispy Kareem that had the 5th overall pick in this draft. I don't like the Rob Gronkowski pick at all. I definitely would prefer Logan Thomas. I would prefer Logan Thomas and Tyler Higbee and Robert Tonyan and Irv Smith all over Rob Gronkowski. Don't draft Rob Gronkowski this early in your actual fantasy draft. 6th round is way too early for Gronk. I love Gronk, but there is not only O.J. Howard is back, Cameron Brate is back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just very clearly for the Bucs, the best thing for them to do is to ease Gronk in throughout the entire season, make sure he is healthy for the playoffs. This is what the Patriots did even at the end of his time in New England, and it's what the Buccaneers are going to continue to do. It's really similar to what they did last season with Gronk as well, even after the O.J. Howard injury, who O.J. Howard is back now. I don't want anything to do with Gronk, maybe. Best case scenario for Gronk is he's the fifth option in the offense. So count me out on Gronk. I think Logan Thomas has a lot higher ceiling. I like the Juju pick. I think all of the running backs taken, honestly, in round 8 and later, I think they're all going to be terrible unless there's some sort of injury. I'm out on James Conner. I don't want Kenyon Drake, who I got in the 8th round. Really, all those guys need an injury. They need an injury almost for fantasy relevance. Jamal Williams is a guy, though, that does have, he's going to see at least half the carries in Detroit. That's going to be his role, similar to his role on the Packers. But I'm still not that excited about it because he doesn't really have a path to a lot of receptions because DeAndre Swift is there. And I think DeAndre Swift is going to have that role. Phillip Lindsay, by the way, is a guy that I have been drafting late in best ball drafts recently. But again, he's not going to be that good. It's the Houston Texans. They could score the least points in the league this year. And there are a lot of other running backs in that backfield as well. Overall, though, I think the team's pretty solid. I think if you switch J.K. Dobbins with DeAndre Swift and Gronk with Logan Thomas, you got a league-winning upside team right there. All right, I will try to get to a few more of the comments, and then we will wrap up the live stream. Thanks for everyone hopping on really no notice at all. This has been a very, very fun live stream. Make sure, Yarjma, man, how's it going? True OG in the chat. Man, Yarjma, do you have a draft coming up, man? Because I am getting excited. We got a lot of drafts in the next 3 weeks. Are you worried about DeAndre Hopkins with that whole retiring thing because of the vaccine? I think you can be a little bit worried about it. But I'm not that worried about it because usually how things go in the NFL is if you are that good and DeAndre Hopkins is that good, top 5 wide receiver in the league in his prime right now, you're going to end up playing because the NFL wants you to play and you want to play because he's on a massive contract. So I would be pretty surprised if that is what takes DeAndre Hopkins down. But I do think it is I would rather him not be, in that situation. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Yeah, I have a couple big money drafts coming up. That's what I'm talking about. I got my first big money draft this weekend. I'm in 6 different high-stakes leagues, and my first one's this weekend. Bro, your draft is Sunday morning. Our draft is Sunday morning. Who do you recommend for QB? Yeah, my QB strategy is actually pretty straightforward this year. My quarterback strategy is, and I'm actually interested to see if we go back to this draft board for a second. If you're watching live on YouTube, we just did a live mock draft with some listeners and some TikTok creators. But looking at the quarterbacks and how it played out in this draft, Patrick Mahomes went in the 2nd round. I bet that's going to happen in my actual draft as well. But then no quarterbacks were taken again until the 4th round. And this is what I've seen pretty consistently in the best ball drafts I've been doing too. But we see Josh Allen go middle to end of the 4th round. Then Lamar Jackson went 2 picks later, and then Kyler Murray went 1 pick later. If I wanted to be get one of these 4 guys in this draft, I would love to be Michael Buetti, our Ravens.WalterPicks creator, getting Kyler Murray. Because to me, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, all 4 of those guys, have a very similar chance to be the number 1 overall quarterback this season. So if I get the cheapest one, which in this draft it was Kyler Murray, in your draft it might be Lamar Jackson. It could be Josh Allen. I don't know. But if you're on the clock and those 3 of those 4 guys have already been drafted, that's when I think you can consider taking an early quarterback. Because inherently, you're getting an advantage because you just got a very similar type of player at a cheaper cost than the other 3 teams that already drafted a quarterback. And then you're also getting the end of a tier like Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be very hard to beat for the number 1 overall quarterback spot. If I don't get one of those guys, though, and I'm definitely not reaching for those guys, if I don't get one of those guys, then I'm just going to wait, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to keep waiting, and then I'm going to take Jalen Hurts in the 7th or 8th round. Where did Jalen Hurts even get drafted in this draft? He must have. I think he's probably off my screen somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, he went in the 8th round. Jalen Hurts in the 8th round. I don't hate that at all. It was actually the last pick of the 8th round. And this is a 14-team league, too. So in a 12-person league, that's more like the 9th round. Jalen Hurts has that rushing upside. I want quarterbacks with a rushing upside. Trey Lance is usually going after Jalen Hurts. That didn't happen in this draft. But Trey Lance is another guy like 9th, 10th round that I definitely want. Same thing with Justin Fields. Trey Lance, Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts usually before Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Then a few rounds later, if you miss on Jalen Hurts, don't reach for any of these guys because one of them is going to end up falling. If Jalen Hurts gets picked early, just wait for Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Just make sure you draft a second quarterback in those drafts because they're probably not going to start right away. And I got Joe Burrow. In this draft, I got Joe Burrow in the 9th round. Joe Burrow could easily finish as a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. He has amazing 3 wide receivers. Joe Mixon is also very good. I don't know why I've had Joe Mixon behind me this whole time on TikTok. But I like Joe Burrow late as well. Basically, my general quarterback strategy, if I get the end of the top 4 guys, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm just waiting, and I'm going to take stabs at guys with rushing upside. Or I'm just going to literally wait to the last round and get guys like Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Honestly, Ryan Fitzpatrick will be completely free. He has an absolute cakewalk of the first 2 weeks. So I like drafting him if I get Justin Fields or Trey Lance as well. All right, guys. I appreciate everyone hopping into the live stream. This has been a lot of fun. Good luck in your drafts this weekend. I'll definitely be recapping on YouTube and probably TikTok as well how my actual high-stakes draft ends up. I hope it ends up much better than how this draft ended up for me. But I will be back live soon, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube if you haven't yet. And I appreciate everyone tuning in. Have a great weekend, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. And as always, guys, I will always wrap up my live streams when I'm live on YouTube by trying to get to some of the comments. I feel like I didn't do a fantastic job getting to a lot of the YouTube comments today. So I will try to answer some. How do you like doubling up on 2 top 10 running backs with pick 10? Yeah, I think it's my favorite strategy, Felipe. I had pick 13 here, and I was saying all draft. I wish I had went running back. I think running back is the strongest approach to drafts in season-long leagues this year because there's so much value at wide receiver. Thoughts on my team on pick 7? Let's take a look. Pick 7, Zeke, Clyde Edwards-Helaire started running back, so I like that. CeeDee Lamb, I like a lot as well in the middle of the 3rd round, especially in a 14-team league. And I don't know, like he's such a value on Yahoo and ESPN drafts. I've seen him time and time again be going in the 4th round. I really hope that happens in one of my leagues. I don't love Mike Evans this year or Chris Godwin that much. And really the reason I don't love them is you're getting Antonio Brown. Where did Antonio Brown get drafted in this draft? Can anyone find Antonio Brown? He's probably off the screen again. No, he's not. Let's see. Can I search? See if I can search. Did Antonio Brown not get picked? Is this real? No, here he is. Antonio Brown, 7th round. So Mike Evans and Chris Godwin went in the 4th round. Antonio Brown goes in the 7th round. Don't be surprised if Antonio Brown does just as well as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin this season. That's why I'm not that high on Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But both of them are going to be pretty consistent high ceiling guys because they're in an offense that is going to throw the most deep attempts per game in the NFL. I like Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka, a lot. I was just saying, I think at the beginning of the stream, I do prefer T. Higgins over him, though. I think they got drafted right next to each other in this draft, which is interesting. Usually Ayuk does go first, but I like Higgins a little bit more. I think Higgins is going to lead the Bengals in receiving. And to me, like, the Bengals are just more clearly a pass-heavy team than the 49ers. I could very easily see Trey Lance coming in, or even if he doesn't, the 49ers just really trying to skew very run-heavy. And Deebo Samuel and George Kittle are very, very good, and that's who Ayuk has to compete with. That being said, I think Ayuk is an absolute baller. I think as a football player, I prefer Ayuk over T. Higgins. I think they're both really good, though. And I do like both the picks there. I don't like Ronald Jones at all. I feel like I don't like any of these late-round running backs, but I definitely would prefer Raheem Mostert over Ronald Jones. There just seems like Ronald Jones, both these guys have very little path to receiving roles, which is why I don't like them. But Ronald Jones might not even have a rushing role. He could lose that to Leonard Fournette. Giovanni Bernard's looking like he's locked in to the 3rd down role there too. So I'm not very high on Ronald Jones. I would definitely prefer Raheem Mostert. I like the Michael Pittman pick, by the way, though. I do think that the Michael Pittman, he's not even getting drafted in some ESPN leagues, guys. His average draft position on ESPN is in the 200s. I really don't understand. I really don't understand why. Keenan Allen or Justin Jefferson in a PPR league. Yeah, if you look at the draft we just did, Keenan Allen went much earlier than Justin Jefferson. I would prefer Justin Jefferson, though. And in most drafts, Justin Jefferson is going before Keenan Allen. Pick 11's asking to review really quickly. Yeah, I think I did touch on this. I like the Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris start a lot. I don't love Jonathan Taylor, but I do love going early running back. I think I would prefer Austin Eckler, but Austin Eckler wasn't available for you. So I don't really hate the pick. Was there a running back? Yeah, I would take Jonathan Taylor over, I don't know, Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb, to me, there's really not that big of a difference. To me, the big difference is that Nick Chubb splitting with Kareem Hunt, and we kind of know exactly what that's going to be like. With Jonathan Taylor, I feel like it's a little more uncertain. How much is Nyheim Hines going to come in on 3rd downs? But I do think, just in general, they're both extremely efficient running backs behind very good offensive lines with very little receiving roles. So I do like the Najee Harris pick a lot, though. He's going to see 300 carries this season if he stays healthy. Robert Woods, the safest pick in the 3rd round. I really was hoping I could get him with the 13th pick. I like the Deontay Johnson pick a lot as well. I don't think there's any receivers that went after him that I would rather have. Mark Andrews, I think, is good. I'm nervous about him a little bit. Like all of these middle round tight ends after TJ Hawkinson, I'm very concerned about. But Mark Andrews, if there is one guy that went in the middle rounds here that was a value at the tight end position, it was probably Mark Andrews. Usually he goes very soon after TJ Hawkinson or even before TJ Hawkinson. So you got him like a round after his ADP. I like Brandon Cooks a ton. Zach Moss is definitely someone that I should have drafted, or I would have drafted instead of Leonard Fournette. Zach Moss might be the cheapest starting running back that was drafted in this draft and in most drafts. Zach Moss is almost definitely going to be the starter for a top 5 offense in the NFL, and he's going in the 7th round just because they just throw the ball so much, and Singletary will be involved. But no, I like the Zach Moss pick. I don't like the Chuba Hubbard pick at all. I don't think he's going to do anything without an injury. I like Tunyon, but I wouldn't draft a second tight end if I got Mark Andrews. And yeah, I like the Matt Stafford pick as well. I would say overall it's a pretty good team. All right, Zeke, Eckler, Aaron Jones, PPR at 7th pick. This is a very tough one. I do think if you look at how it happened in this draft, those 3 guys went right in a row. I think I would go in this same order. I think I would probably go Zeke, then Eckler, then Aaron Jones. But I could very easily see the argument for any order of these 3 guys. To me, though, Zeke is the pretty clear first one in this group because Zeke has a higher touchdown ceiling than both the other guys. Aaron Jones has a higher touchdown ceiling than Austin Eckler as well, but Eckler has the most receiving upside of the group. So there's a lot there. In a half PPR league, though, I would definitely go Zeke, then Aaron Jones, then Eckler. In a full PPR league, I think Eckler jumps Aaron Jones a little bit, but Zeke still just has this massive upside with a healthy Dallas Cowboys offensive line and a healthy Dak Prescott. Like he can be the number 1 overall running back in fantasy this season. Keenan Allen or Justin Jefferson PPR? Yeah, I think I answered that one. I think I said Justin Jefferson. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back live, really like a lot, all the way up to the season. And I'll be live a lot during the season as well to make sure we're making the right start-sit decisions. We're dominating the player props and definitely dominating on DraftKings and FanDuel this season as well. Good luck in your drafts if you're drafting this weekend, and I'll be back soon, guys. Thanks for tuning in.